And we're back to learning JavaScript on Exercism. This time I'm going to solve grade school right here. We need 3 functions. Read through this yourself, and if you get stuck, refer to my walkthrough. At first we need a constructor, so a function that's going to give us an empty object, or that's going to initialize it. Let me add that right here. I'm just going to call this roster. The name is already used for function, so I add an underscore. But this should work. I run the tests here and there to see if I made any typos. It seems that I'm good for this one, so let me go to the roster. We need to return this roster, and I use a global method called structured clone for it. If you don't know what that is, you can easily look it up in web docs. Just type in JavaScript structured clone and a method should pop up. In easy terms, it's going to create a deep clone for us. And if I run the test, you can see this is now created here and will pass test 1. So we're good with the first function roster. We always have a name and a grade, so let me use this as parameters for our second function. But I also want to comment code line 12, so we return a copy of our roster. For now it's empty. Now we can add students to specific grades. And we also want to check if a name is in a certain grade, and if this is the case, we'll remove it. I'll just use a for in loop for it. Let me just create a new variable here. I call it simply G, so this is our grade, but the parameter name grade is already in use, so I just use G here. And we want to go through our roster, so don't forget the underscore. I create a new variable called index, so this is going to check if we find a name. I want to check it in our roster at the G position, so this is our counter for the index position of our roster. And if a name is found, we use the index of it. So now we know its position, and this is stored in our index variable here in code line 18, and I use that in our if condition. So if this is bigger than 0, it is found, and then we'll apply a method to our roster at the specific G position. We simply splice it as our index, and we only have to splice one element. So this should update our roster. But we're not done here for our add function. After our for in loop, we should be here. We finally want to add a name to given grade. So again, we use our roster. We'll check in this object if we have a specific grade, or we'll find this specific grade. Let me check a test right here. For example, Blair is in grade 2, James also. So this is what we're checking here in our object. And if this is found, we'll have to spread it out. I'll use the spread operator and apply it to our roster. Obviously only where we have our grade, so we can find all the names in this grade. And if this is not found, we'll just return an empty array. And then we'll add our name here. And then we'll use sort to bring it in order. And now we've already passed the first 6 tests. For example, here, Amy and 2 is given. So code line 22 finds our grade 2, then spreads out all the names in it, adds Amy, and then it's going to get sorted in alphabetical order. Here we have 3 names in test 3, so it also works for multiple names. And just in case we wouldn't have a name in it, we would simply give an empty array and then add the name to it. Let us check the final function. We need our grade right here. We need the grade parameter. And what we want to do is the third bullet point. So we want to return a copy of all students in our grades. And just in case we have an empty grade, we'll just return an empty array. We can simply use return array.from and then use our roster. So again, this _roster for a specific grade. And as I've said, we'll return an empty array just in case nothing is found. I haven't made any typos, so we've passed all the tests. Let me check, for example, test 6 right here. So grade is 1. And we would return an empty array if nothing is found here. Here we have a couple of grades. This also works. And that was it. Once again, look up structured clone if this is new to you. It's a global method that can be found, that can be used in JavaScript. But besides that, the solution here is pretty straightforward. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.